Hello and welcome to the Repro the podcast that provides information about dairy reproductive management from top dairy reproductive physiologists. My name is Dr. Victor Gomez Leon, and I'm an extension specialist for Kansas State University.
And my name is Dr. Jennifer Spencer, and I'm an extension dairy specialist for Texas A&M University. We're here today with Dr. Victor Cabrera, a professor and extension specialist in dairy management at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Dr. Cabrera works to improve dairy farm management, profitability, environmental stewardship, and long-term sustainability within the dairy industry.
Victor, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks, Victor, and thanks, Jennifer, for making this possible. It is my pleasure to join you today.
So let's get into it, a little bit of a discussion. So why should producers optimize reproduction?
So reproduction is at the heart of the dairy production system. Having cows going through their reproductive cycles efficiently and timely is critical to maintain a profitable dairy farm. Being a heavily integrated system, the dairy farm, reproduction affects pretty much every other aspect on a farm. So for instance, we have documented that improved reproduction performance increases dairy farm profitability because of many reasons. Among those, for example, increases milk productivity because cows will spend more time in the best part of their lactation curves. Producers produces more calves per cow per year, and with these, the opportunity to best select replacements using genomics or decide not to even produce replacements not needed. For example, using beef semen for extra income or combine it with sex semen to improve genetic progress at the same time. So better reproduction also decreases not only the reproductive culling, because we will have more pregnant cows and less cows failing to become pregnant, but also will decrease the overall turnover rate of the herd because diseases, injuries, and even mortality, because cows will have less risk of being culled if they follow a normal productive and reproductive cycle. Also, having better reproduction provides farmers an opportunity to make more selective culling and not obligated culling, as they many times would need to do if they don't have good reproduction. So I could keep mentioning, but probably we should continue with the conversation.
No, those are all very good points. And you kind of mentioned it too. So from an economic standpoint, reproduction is extremely important. But is it better to improve the conception rate or pregnancies per insemination or the service rate, the heat detection rate?
So the simple answer in my mind would be both. We want to improve at the end the pregnancy rate, which depends somehow equally of the service rate and the conception rate. So we have plenty of research quantifying the economic value of improving pregnancy rate. In my opinion, the low-hanging fruit is to improve the service rate, at least first. Depending on the farm and the reproductive program in place, there are ways in which the farmer or manager can improve the number or proportion of cows inseminated per unit of time. So, for example, better heat detection, better compliance with synchronization protocols, or reaching shorter interbreeding interval in many other ways within already established protocols. Any of this would have a greater proportion of cows eligible to be inseminated. The more cows we inseminated, the more pregnancies we will have overall. And we can connect with the 21-day pregnancy rate, we will have a higher 21-day pregnancy rate. Improving the pregnancies per insemination or conception rate can also be accomplished by applying, for example, more sophisticated reproduction protocols, like double offsync with an extra PGF, which we know now increases not only the service rate, but also the conception rate. But this will probably require a greater management change and more planning on the farm. It's doable though. Greater conception rate could also be achieved by selecting cows that might be more fertile at the time of insemination. But this could also impact the number or proportion of cows being submitted to insemination. So the service rate. So there would be a trade-off there. Nonetheless, in this case, for example, if we only breed the most fertile cows, we will save some cost in breeding, and we will need to ponder that against the number of pregnancies, and potentially there will be a favorable end with that decision.
Since we are talking of improving service rate and pregnancies per insemination, and we are already talking about different herds or scenarios, what would be the best parameters that producers can use to measure their reproduction efficiency?
In my opinion, the best measure of reproduction performance would be the economic value resulting of a reproductive management strategy and in the long term. The way I see it is that when the farmer applies a reproductive management strategy, keep everything else the same, this will result in a different herd demographics determining an economic outcome, which is the aggregated net return of each and every single cow in the herd when the herd reaches equilibrium or a steady state. Though to calculate it, it is required a model or to project the dynamics of the herd in the future and assume some values like economic prices and costs, like milk price, feed costs, etc. So the analysis also needs to be done as much as possible, defining a herd, so it is farm specific normally. If we set up two possible reproductive programs in a farm, we can know which one will bring the greatest net return and what's the difference in the net return between the two. So quantifying the value of the best reproductive program with respect to the other. However, this economic value is difficult to compare among farms use it as a benchmark. So we evaluated it against several reproduction metrics in our research. So we compare this against open days, pregnancy at 150 days, number of inseminations to pregnancy, 21-day pregnancy rate. And we found that the best proxy is the 21-day pregnancy rate. But I would add the less unbiased 21-day pregnancy rate. Like for example, if we are going to compare two herds, they should be at the same voluntary waiting period, regardless of when actually happens the first insemination. And they both should be at the same cutoff of breedings in time, days after calving, for example. So the comparison should be as fair as possible between the programs or strategies. So we have well documented and actually published curves that explain the increasing economic value of reproductive programs related to increasing the 21-day pregnancy rate. So there is a clear relationship of both increasing, but this relationship follows what's called the diminishing marginal return. So the greater the 21-day pregnancy rate already, the lower would be the gains, though those gains will continue to happen even at very high 21-day pregnancy rate of 40% or even higher. So the opportunity continues.
Okay, so assuming that we have, or within the same hair, or maybe two hairs that have the same characteristic, same number of days in milk and everything, can we have in these two hairs the same number of days open, but one hair being spending more money depending on a repro management strategy that they decided to do?
Yes, absolutely. Not only the days open, but all the other metrics, include the one we consider the best, the 21-day pregnancy rate, can have different economic outcomes depending on many factors such as prices, costs, and farm-specific conditions. We actually have that documented. Although the 21-day pregnancy rate seems to be better to represent the economic outcomes, it is still biased. And other metrics, open days, for example, that's heavily used in the industry, are even more biased. And we have that documented as well. We published a chapter in the large herd dairy management book of the dairy science a few years back with Mike Overton in collaboration, and we show what are the potential bias of all these metrics. But if we talk about the 21-day preg rate specifically, that seems to be the best, and we use heavily. We also use heavily for our comparisons. For example, the 21-day pregnancy rate does not distinguish cows in first lactation from later lactations, or it does not distinguish between pregnancy occurring very early in the lactation or in very late lactation. For the calculation of the 21-day pregnancy rate, they mean exactly the same. There is no weight on each one of those decisions. However, we do know that a pregnancy in early lactation, for example, may be less valuable than in late lactation for a first lactation cow, for example. It depends on the conditions, but those things should be included in a full economic assessment. This full economic assessment, including costs and benefits, it is what's going to tell what's the best option at the end. But it will require, as I mentioned before, farm-specific data. So luckily, we do have several decision support tools in our website that can help to do this specific analysis with specific data of dairy farms.
Very good point. And we know that you've done a lot of work on these tools to help facilitate producers and consultants to make different types of decisions. And is there anything else you might want to share about the tools, or kind of explain how producers and consultants can use these tools and how it's going to impact, them, and maybe what decisions they make, and, some things that they may not be thinking about?
Sure. Thanks for the question. Give me an opportunity to point to your audience about the University of Wisconsin-Madison Dairy Management website. So the actual URL is dairymgt.info, or simply Googling dairy management tools in Wisconsin. It would be one of the first links that appears in the search. So over the years, my group and I have created this repository of more than nowadays 40 or more online decision support tools. And these are, we try to improve, update, upgrade, and grow, get new tools. The other important thing on our website is that all the tools are openly and freely available to anyone. And they are grouped by management area. We have in nutrition, reproduction, production, replacement, even in financing, etc. And as we have been developing these tools and updating and upgrading them, we have kept always in mind to provide scientifically sound, but still user-friendly, practical decision applications. So if you haven't visited the website yet, I really encourage you and invite you to stop by and explore the tools. I'm pretty sure you will find something, at least something that would be useful for your needs. We're also open to suggestions to improve the current tools. Many of the tools have been improved because the users ask for questions that sometimes are easy, sometimes are difficult to respond, and we need to change the tools. And also new tools will appear based on the use of the practitioners. And many of the tools have been born by questions of the farmers or the consultants. I have mentioned before that there are some good tools in the area specifically of reproduction, and still some upcoming, like the full combination of reproduction, genetics, and replacement decisions, and sex and beef semen, etc. And also upcoming, another very exciting tool would be a whole farm simulation model that will assess the economic and environmental sustainability of dairy farms. So check it out whenever you get a chance.
Victor, thanks for sharing all these insights and tools with us today. We also want to thank our listeners for joining the Repro Spot podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions, please contact myself, Dr. Victor Gomez at K-State, or Dr. Jennifer Spencer at Texas A&M. Our contact information can be found in the description below. We hope you have a wonderful day and stay tuned for our next podcast release.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Victor. Yeah, that was so nice.